kept me there at the hospital overnight, and while I was there, they had me do another CT scan. So the first scan that I did not have any contrast. And I think the contrast is able to, it's basically like a dye where the doctors are able to see exactly like where the tumor ends and begins. So they did another CT scan except with contrast so that they could see exactly where the outline of the tumor was. And because of that, then they were able to show that to the kidney specialist. There was a urologist that saw me as well as an oncologist, and they both, the urologist is the one that was my main point of contact, and he was the one that said, you know, it looks like the mass is about 7.5 to 8 centimeters large, and, you know, he said there's no way that we can like 100% say that it's cancer, but he said it's 99.99% cancer. He said the only way that it would be like 100% is once they actually take it out and they actually do the pathology on it and like, you know, examine the tumor itself. But I mean, at that point, when the doctor says it's 99.99%, I just assumed that it was cancer. So I remember when I was still down in the emergency room for my first CT scan, I started to get really emotional because it's a very cold room. It's just you lying down, like about to go under this like buzzing machine. And it just like seemed like very intimidating. And the technician is, you know, behind the glass screen, so you just feel really alone. And I remember I'm not sure if it's like this at all hospitals, but at this hospital, when you look up on the ceiling, there's actually like a mural that they put up there. So it's like a sky and clouds, and it was like a sunny day. And so it's sort of just like a peaceful kind of like mural that people can see right before they're about to go in. Sorry, I didn't think I would get emotional about this. Anyway, so I remember feeling at that very moment, it was kind of like, I felt like my life was all sort of like going past my eyes. And I remember feeling like, you know, this was even before I was diagnosed. Like, I just felt like something was wrong. Like, why would they want to do this scan? Why would, you know, I just felt like the process was a lot longer than I had initially thought. So I kind of just knew something was wrong. And the scan itself was, you know, it was very quick. It was, you know, maybe 5 minutes. Nothing really hit me, and I just said like, okay, then, you know, what's the treatment? I was very logical about like what the next step was going to be, but you know, my mom was starting to get really emotional. My brother was really sad, and so you know, I think I just felt at that point that I had to be strong for the people that were around me, because I knew that if I lost it, then they would get worse and they would get more emotional. So I actually told my close friends first. I called them, I texted them, but I also have like a very large support system on social media, because as a profession, as of last year, I became a blogger and a content creator in Instagram, or whatever you want to call it, full time. And so a lot of the people that I talk to are through like direct messages on Instagram, or you know, I have a lot of friends that, you know, I just know through that platform. So I actually ended up posting a photo while I was in the hospital of myself in the hospital, saying that I had cancer, and that, you know, kind of the initial thoughts of what I was feeling. And at that moment when I posted it, I felt really positive and strong, and like, you know, I'm gonna get through this. And, you know, in hindsight, of course, I did, but at that moment, like, I just felt like I had to put on a strong face. I think the anxiety was definitely like in full force, you know, leading up to that date, but a friend of mine actually had suggested me had suggested to me that I watch a documentary called Heal, and at that I think now it's on Netflix, but I think at that time it was on Amazon, and so I rented it, and I just thought it did definitely help me with my mindset in terms of how I cope, and it definitely didn't remove the anxiety that I had, but it did help me get at least momentary perspective of how I should be thinking, and essentially it has to do with how our thoughts really affect our physical being. And so if we have negative thoughts and we're constantly down and we're worried and all of that, like that will just exacerbate us like physically as well, and that manifests in us physically. So it was kind of just like remembering to have positive thoughts, positive energy to help with my internal healing. Because they used a robot, I think the incisions are smaller and it's more precise than actual like surgeons using their hands to make all of the incisions. When you're actually in the surgery room, in the operating room itself, there's a whole team. Know that, if anything ever potentially could go wrong, like all of the key people that need to be there are there. The surgery itself, I believe, took about my memory could be incorrect, but it's around 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours. It took me, I would say, like a solid 2 months till I felt like I could walk on my own, till I could like stand up straight. But during those first 2 months after surgery, everything was so painful and it just felt like I was never going to be able to walk again. And my new walking would be me hunched over and like, at the speed of like, someone that's much older. And so it's so interesting. Like when you're in these moments, like you don't really see the end. Like, at least for me, I felt like the present was kind of going to be my forever. Yeah, surprisingly, it wasn't the pain. Um, it was more the emotional effects of it, just dealing with denial at first, and then anxiety and fear and anger. And, I'm actually someone who's really health conscious, so just that's where the anger came in of like, I thought I was being healthy. Why am I getting sick? Um, And so kind of just dealing with all of those emotions, and then the fact on top of that, feeling the need to be strong, feeling really isolated from people, um, those emotions all kind of like intertwined. So I could feel like 10 emotions in a split second. I just was very just overwhelmed with emotion. I think that was the most difficult part of the process. Take the time for yourself. Give yourself the space to feel your emotions, to really understand what is going on with you, to be present with your emotions, and to not shut your emotions out. For me, I went through a lot of denial in the beginning, and because I did that, all of my emotions came later in the process. I think in hindsight, it would have been healthier for me to really try to understand exactly what was going on with me, not look for solutions, not try to fix the situation. These things are, out of our control in a lot of ways, but it's really just understanding it's okay to be angry, it's okay to cry, it's okay to not be strong in front of people that you think you have to be strong for.